All right, we are live. Here we go. All
Right,
right,
we are
so
live.
obviously this is training day one, and we are going to go over pretty much the basic things that you would do on a first install. So there will be other things, but this is just an example of everything that you will have to set up.
Okay.
So let me first just show you a few slides. So of course, you want to pay attention to all the sessions to make sure everything goes well your first time around. Try to keep the questions pertaining to what we're going over, but at the end of the day, I'll ask you if you had any questions relating to anything that we went over today. So feel free to make a list of any questions you have, but really, I don't mind if you ask something unrelated. And just be careful with the background noise, because as I said, I'm going to be recording it. So it'll be easier for you guys to go back and listen to it if it's quiet in the background. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you will want to create a support account on the support site. So this is just a screenshot of the page when you're not signed in. Let me take you to the support site. All right, so I already have my information saved, but to create a new account, you would click register. So let me log in here. This is where you can download anything we have available, such as an early release, for example, for SoftTouch or SoftTouch Element. And this is also where you will be submitting your tickets, unless, of course, you want to email something, just whichever you prefer. But if you have a tech support ticket, of course, you'd want to submit a ticket on here. So you'd go to submit a ticket. You would select the department. So tech support, dongle activations, or dongle upgrades would be what you would do most often. So for example, if you do a dongle activation, you do next, you would just put in all the information for that restaurant, and you would paste the registration ID from the back office, which I'll show you in just a moment. Now, the downloads are, of course, under downloads in pretty self-explanatory categories. So for example, I mentioned the early releases. Those would be here. Right, do you have any questions so far on the support site?
Not yet, no.
All right, so let me just take this back. All right, so our quick start guide here, of course, you want to plug in the dongle to the USB port of the computer if you're going to be setting everything up for the restaurant first on your computer. You want to install the server software. So you would go to the downloads, early release, find that latest version of SoftTouch. There will be a password on there. Just remember that password, because after you download the file, it's going to ask you for the password to extract the file. And then you'll run the installer and just follow all the instructions that are on the screen for the installer. Once you have done all that, you are going to want to open Backoffice, because that's where you set up everything for SoftTouch. So double click it, and then you'll use these credentials here. These credentials will be the same for every new install you do. Right, so the username is going to be SoftTouch admin, and your password initially is going to be it's private too. But then as soon as you go in, it is going to prompt you to change the back office password. It has to be at least 8 characters in length, and it has to have numbers and letters. There is a regulation that you need to change the password every 3 months. And that's because of our PADSS regulations, because you could have credit card information in there or other social security numbers, other secure information.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Lindsay, let me interrupt for a minute. There's something really weird going on. From time to time, your voice sounds like a banjo.
Oh, no. Here, let me see if I can adjust this if it helps at all. All right, testing, testing. Does it sound okay? Do you want me to keep going and then just let me know if it happens again?
Yes. So far, I've been able to figure out what you're saying because I've been working with this.
Got it.
But there may come a point where I'll have to stop you.
Got it. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, just let me know if it does anything weird. Maybe some sort of connection.
Okay.
Something else. Yeah, so I'm still giving you the same sort of training I usually do, but since I figured you have some experience, I'm being just a little different with it. So yes, so we do have that password reset fee of $200 if you're absolutely locked out. So if the owner forgets the password, either they or you will need to send us two things to info@softtouchpos.com. They would need to send in the driver's license for the owner that we have on file, and then the business license or something else that has the business's name and address that matches what we have, because we want to confirm that it's the right person and everything is going to be secure. And then after that, we charge them the $200, and then Taylor gives them a call and does the password reset. Dealers have asked me if there's a way that they can sort of get around this. Something you can do is, as a dealer, you can create your own dealer account, and just, of course, you'll remember what your password is. So you'll be able to go in with your password, and you can change the customer's password for them. So the restaurant owner's password, whoever it is. So that's a way that you can sort of avoid that fee if you need to. And then just note that the username will always be that SoftTouch admin. All right, so that's the end of the slide. Now let me just open up my back office, and then I'll move you over here. If the computer wants to cooperate with me. All right, there we go. All right, so here I am in my back office. I'm just going to sign in with my information. All right, so the first thing that you want to do when you open a back office, of course, you're going to need to reset that password, but you need to activate the software before you can do anything with it. And to do that, you would go under Miscellaneous, Activation, and then this first, you can see the first tab here has your license information, and it will be blank if it's a new install. It shows the dongle ID, who the dealer is, all the customer's information, and it shows you everything that you have licensed and product updates. So for example, for mine, I have 2 of each station, and it shows you what version I'm on, and my product upgrades have expired. Going to activate products, if you check this box, the user agrees to terms and conditions, and click the copy activation to clipboard button, that's going to give you that registration ID that you need to create a ticket for or email us so that we can do the activation for the restaurant. So if we go back to the support site, go back to submit a ticket. That's all the information that you would fill out there, and you hit submit. After you submit that ticket, it usually only takes us a few minutes to get that activation back to you. And we would give you a similar code, so similar in length to what you sent over to us. You would copy that, paste it into this white box here under Activate Products, and then click Activate the Software. And then when you go to license information, it's going to have all of that information filled out for you. You don't want to give anyone your dongle ID. Try to keep it confidential because it's sort of like a social security number or a VIN, but for the software. And then at the SAGE conference, it was mentioned that we will have it coming up so that you can have restaurants pre-activated if you want to, where when you order the dongle, you can give us the restaurant's information and we would have it filled out. That's not something we have right now, but we will have that coming up. Any questions on activation?
Not yet.
All right, got it. All right, so now let's go to the database maintenance.
So far, I've been following along in.
Okay, good. All right, so now toward the very bottom under miscellaneous as well, we have database maintenance. I'll just go through all the tabs over here. So the first one is to clear old data. You can do automatic data cleanup or you can do manual cleanup. So you can schedule your automatic cleanup, which will remove all of your journal entries and system history, or you can choose to just manually do it whenever you want it to be done. So if you do automatic, it has just one option here, which you select the number of days to keep the history in the system. If you put 0, then it's going to disable it. So if you put 365 days, it's going to automatically clean your history after 365 days. If you do manual, you put a number for the X amount of days to keep the data. Typically, people would set this to 13 months or maybe 396 days, just so it's a bit over a year, so they know they'll have a year's worth of data in there. And then when you're ready to manually do it, you would click the Clean History Data button. we go to the backup settings. This is just where you would set up your external backup location, and you would do the number of daily backups to keep. The backups are automatically executed at the end of every Z, locally and externally, and it just always has these instructions and this information here for you if you don't remember. All right, so now we have the data redundancy. So we have activate and we have restore. So first you would go to restore if the restaurant will be using the data redundancy. It's very simple. It has the 3 steps. First step is to make sure you have plugged in the external hard drive, and we recommend external hard drive and not a flash drive. From the dropdown, you select your destination drive. And then once everything is ready, you're going to click activate, and then it will start creating a mirror everything that you're doing. Make sure you always have the redundancy hard drive turned on and connected to the server at all times. Because this way, if the server goes down, you can unplug the redundancy, move it to another station, and then plug it in, and then that's when you would go to the restore redundancy. Go here, 3 steps again, make sure it's plugged in, select the drive, and then you click restore redundancy. And it will show you the status here. It will show you when it's completed everything. So if you were in the middle of caching out a customer and the server died, you plug this into another station, and then you'll be right back where you were caching out that customer. Any questions?
Well, I'm glad to know that today. We could have used that like 2 days ago.
Oh no.
You know, thank God Shane's a little ahead of us, so we were good.
Good. That's good. Well, now you know. All right, so now these next things I'm going to go over, this is an example of the order that you can do a new install for, but you don't need to do it in this order. First, I'm just going to do a few things under General. So I will go to the top, and I'm going to go to General, System, and then General again. There are several settings here that we'll get back to. Right now, I just want to go over a few. So we have the back office and activity timeout. The maximum is 15 minutes, and that's what I have mine set to. So if I ignore back office for 15 minutes, then it's going to sign me out. You have the check generator if you want it to be sequential, so 101, 102, 103, or have the check numbers be random. And then we'll just come back to this at various points. If we go now to the function button, this is where you can choose buttons to disable. So if there are buttons that you do not want anyone to even see, all you need to do is put in that button name exactly as it appears in SoftTouch and check disable. So I actually had a funny experience last week. I could not see my sections button. So I said, Taylor, I need some help. I don't know why my sections button isn't appearing. And he asked me if I had checked my function button. And wouldn't you know it, it was right here and it was disabled. So all I had to do was uncheck disable, save, and then my sections button was visible. So if you ever want to enable them again, you can. We go to services. This is where you can start and stop the different SoftTouch services. So for example, if your reports have been behaving strangely, you can stop your SoftTouch report server. So just select it and stop, and then start it over again. It will start up again, and it should resolve any problems that it was having. Right, so now I'm going to set up a revenue center. I already have a couple, but we'll create an example one for this. So that's going to be under financial and revenue centers. And the revenue center is a group of stations that are in a unique area. So for example, I have bar and restaurant. So let me add one. And we are going to make a tiki bar. So now I have 3 revenue centers to choose from. You can set a station to belong to a specific revenue center. So for example, you can have station number 1 belongs to the restaurant, station numbers 2 and 3 belong to the bar. And you would do that by going to hardware and then stations. You select the station, which is something that we'll go over on later, all of the aspects of this. But right now, we'll just assign a revenue center. So I select my station. From the drop-down, I would choose Tiki Bar as my revenue center, and now that's the one that the station is assigned to. Once we do this revenue center, we will also need to set up tax tables and rounding if we're using the value-added tax. And this is one of the most important things because, of course, you want your items to be taxed. So I am going to go under financial and tax table. So you guys as the dealer, it's your responsibility to check the current tax rate for your state, your county, and your local. Okay, so let's say we were adding a new one that is tax table 1. You would just click the add button that's in this rectangle, the tax definition. And then on the bottom, you would enter in your tax definition detail. So my description is tax table 1. I've checked that it's active. And then you can do a fixed dollar amount or a fixed percentage. If you're using the value added tax, then you would check the value added tax box. And that's primarily used for liquor sales. And then it's backed out of certain sales reports to make the reporting and paying taxes very easy if you're using it. So for example, if you have beer priced at $2 and you have your value added tax on, it's only going to charge the customer that $2 and backs out the taxes. So if you are going to be using that, also make sure you check this box at the top to apply value added tax on bar orders only. And then you'll need to turn the rounding on as well. Now to get to the rounding, oh, I'm sorry, did you want to go over anything else in the tax tables first?
To be honest, most of what you said was pretty distorted.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to go again?
Please, I tried to stop you, but I think there's a slight delay, so you couldn't hear me.
That must be it. There must be some sort of connection issue that we're having. Sure. Yeah, let me go again. Okay. So you'll need to create the tax table. You will need to check the current tax rates for the state, the county, and the local, because as the dealer, it's your responsibility to set those up for the restaurant. To add a new tax definition, so a new tax table, you would click the add button, and then you would go to the tax definition detail, put in your description, which is just the name. So I have tax table 1, I have liquor tax, I have food tax. I've checked that it's active. And then you can choose it to be a fixed dollar amount, or you can do a fixed percentage. So for example, my liquor tax is 2%. If you're doing the value added tax, you would check the VAT button at the bottom. And this would be mostly for maybe a bar or liquor situation where you want to back out the taxes. So for example, if you have a beer priced at $2 even, and you have your value added tax on, it's going to only charge the customer the $2. So it backs out those taxes for you. And it also on the reports will take into account that you're using the value added tax. So you need to make sure that at the top you have the apply value added tax on bar orders only box checked for this tax table if you'll be using it. Was it clear that time?
Much better.
All right, awesome, good news. All right, so did you want to hear anything else on tax tables, or are you pretty clear?
I think that's pretty good so far.
Awesome. So you will need to do the rounding if you're doing the value added tax. So I'll show that to you. We go back up to general and system, and then we'll go under rounding. So if you're using value added tax for your bar, you'll set this up so you don't have to deal with any change or any pennies. So for example, maybe you want a bill to turn out to be $12 and it ends up being $12.01. So that's why you would want to use the rounding. So it will go up to maybe $12, or maybe if you just want to avoid pennies, you could do $12.05, for example. So you would check enable rounding. If you want it to be bar checks, bar and dining, or all the modes for rounding, tell it to round to the nearest whatever you'd like. So I have round to the nearest 5 cents. And then for the round calculation, you can do round to the nearest plus or minus, so up or down, or you can round up only. And you also have the option on the bottom to disable it when food items are present. So if you want the rounding to be off, if you have a beer and nachos, for example, you can do that. Any questions on rounding?
Nope, not yet.
All right. So one more thing on the taxes then. You will need to assign the tax table to a station. So let's go back to hardware and stations, back to my station number 1. And you click the tax tab. And all you need to do is press the add button. And from the drop down, you choose the tax table that you want to add. and then you save. If you don't add a tax to the station, then that station will not charge tax because it doesn't know to do that. So even if you have items with a tax table assigned, if there's no tax table on the station, it's not going to tax anything.
Okay.
Next, let's do some setting up printers. First, you will need to install all your printers on Windows. Before you do this on SoftTouch, you'll need to install everything. And it's a good idea to rename the printers for each station. So for example, receipt 1, receipt 2, and so on, where receipt 1 is for station 1, receipt 2 is for station 2. That will also be under hardware, and it's under printers and coursing. So the first tab here is the settings. We have a few enable and disable printing settings on top. You have enable all printing. You can disable printing for remote only, which will disable the kitchen printers. You can disable printing for the receipt and check printouts only, which will disable the station printer. Or you can disable printing for everything. You have your printer list, which will show all of the printers that you have set in SoftTouch. And the one that's checked is the default printer. So mine is the PDF creator because I don't have a printer at my demo. We have these buttons here. Here you would do set selected as default printer if you check the box up here. We have refresh printers. If you want to refresh the list, maybe you've just added one and it hasn't appeared yet. We have find and add missing printers. So if you have just added a new printer in Windows and it's not seeing it, you can search for it here. Or you can add a network printer manually. So you would just click add a network printer manually and then put the name in. Any questions?
No.
All right, so let's go next to the print codes. SoftTouch does come with some print codes that are already in there for the most common printers. So those are predefined. But if you have a printer that's not listed here or the print codes don't match, then you'll need to manually enter in those print codes. So you'll either find them from the printer's manual, or you can go on the website and you would just click the add button on the right, name the printer for the description, and then put in all of the relevant codes. You go to printers. This is going to show you your printer list. So these are all of the printers that you have added. You would click add, and then you have general and the backup and rerouting tabs. Under general, check if it's active or not. The name, so let's do station 1 check-in receipt, for example. The device type is it's a printer. The print code, so here is where you would choose those print codes that you've created. The paper width, if you want the paper cut to be enabled. And then if you do have paper cut enabled, you would fill in the no cut line feed and the cut line feed. And then important is that you want to have the Windows printer name there. So exactly as the printer is named in Windows, you want to have that name right here in the Windows printer name box. For the backup and rerouting, you would choose, for example, so first you would choose the printer schedule. So maybe you want a specific schedule for the printer. And if it's not in the schedule, then reroute to another printer. And then you also have your backup printer. So if this one isn't working for whatever reason, you would put in the printer name for the printer that you wanted to go to instead. Okay. All right, so now let's do print groups. So you will need to assign each printer to at least one print group because the items in your menu are going to be associated with a print group. So the local receipt printer should have 2 groups, one for the checks and one for the receipts. So you can see I have check 1 and receipt 1, which would probably be for my station number 1. So let's pick on check 1. You can see here I have the printer name is station 1, check and receipt. And what this is when I press add, I would just put in the name of the printer that's on my printer list. So I would just choose it right from here. So for example, I could do my pizza printer. I would choose the template. This is something we'll go over another time, but this is where you would create there's a place under administration where you create all of your different templates. So for example, for receipts, for customer surveys, if you're using the kiosk, there's a template. So that's where you would create those, and you would choose which template you want to use for this one. So for example, check. You tell it how many copies to print, how many cash copies, if you want to print guest copies, and so on. And then you can say what print mode this printer is for. So if you want it to only be for bar, you can uncheck everything except bar. If I save it, now I have my pizza printer added to my check 1 print group. Any questions on the print group?
No, ma'am.
All right, sounds great. The last tab, coursing, we'll go over another day. I think it's day 3 or 4. So let me take you now to the receipt templates. This is where you will choose headers and footers for receipts, and that's under miscellaneous and receipt templates. You have the instructions on the right, and I just have my example with my header and footer. It has the logo for the restaurant, the Italian restaurant, the address, and then I have my footer that just says, "Thank you, come again." Now that template section I was referring to would be under administration and template screen. And this is where you would create all of your templates for everything else, but we'll go over that at another time. Right, so now let's set up some tills and drawers because we have our revenue center set up, we have our tax tables set up, printers, so now we need to be able to get some money in there. We'll go back under financial and go to banks, and banks again, the banks tab. Right, so you can have tills and pockets. Pockets are what the servers would have. I know some other people call them banks. I like to think of it as a pocket in your apron, which is a good way to remember it. So let's say we want to do a till. We would do filter by till and click add. Right, so you can see I have a new blank till that I can add. So let's say I want to name this one till number 4. I check if it's active, if it's floating. If it's floating, that means that it can be used by multiple cash drawers. If you are using floating, you won't want to use manual shared at the same time. We have enable blind drops, which prompts the employee to enter how much money was in the drawer without being shown the expected total. So to make sure they're accurate and not just saying, "Oh yes, I had $300," and they really didn't have $300. And then here's the manual shared. So if more than one employee is using the cash drawer, then you would use the manual shared. Again, you don't want to use it with the floating. We'll go over the closeout options at another time. It's basically how involved you want the manager to be with closeout for a till or pocket, or how independent you want a customer to be with it. I'm sorry, an employee to be with it.
Lindsay?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to use floating with the manual shared? Why not?
Because floating would be if you have multiple drawers. So for example, you can have, what am I trying to say? Like you could have 2 different drawers that are technically one till. So you have, I don't know, one drawer that has a certain amount of money and the other one has another amount of money, and they go together into one till. So that would be floating. Manual shared would be if multiple employees are using one drawer.
Okay, understand.
All right, and then we have the starting bank here. So you can do manager mode or the recurring amount. My recurring amount is set at $200. So you always know that this drawer is going to, now I'm saying drawers, you always know that this till is going to have $200. And the manager can just do whatever they want, so they have it in the manager mode. Did you have any more questions on the till?
No, that was the only thing when you were explaining it that I didn't understand.
Got it. Does it, and you said it makes sense now?
Yes.
All right, good stuff. Sounds good. Let me just save this till just because. Pockets are very simple to set up. You would just add, name the pocket, and then you're done. Of course, you would want to choose your closeout, which we'll do another time. But actually, when you create a new server, it gives you the option to create a pocket for them, so you might not even have to go in and create a pocket for them. All right, so now that we do have a till, we would go to stations again to assign what tills you can use with that station, or with the drawer on the station. Right, so let's go over to hardware and station. Select station 1 again. In this case, we will go to hardware devices, and it is going to be the first one here, which is drawers. Right, so you can add multiple tills on there. Yes, you can add multiple tills on there. So I have till number 1 and till number 3, for example. And you would just click add to add whatever tills you wanted to add there. Right, are you ready to go over setting up merchant accounts?
So explain real quick to me the positioning. You see how it says position when position is attached to a terminal?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Explain to me what it means by position 1. When you can select the position, it says the position when attached to a terminal. What exactly does that mean?
Oh, goodness. I do not know the answer to that question. Let me check with Taylor. Okay, let me write it down. If there's ever any question that you have that comes up and I don't know the answer, I'll check with Taylor. And then as soon as we're finished, I'll get that answer for you. Let me just get this here.
No problem.
One for a drawer. Yeah, sorry about that, but I'll ask him about it for sure.
That's okay. Thank you.
Did you have any more questions?
No, that was I had come across this when I was going through working on a sushi restaurant, and I kind of wondered what the positioning meant.
Yes, I'll have to check with them too. I could speculate it might be when you have multiple drawers and maybe one's in position 1 and one's in position 2, for example. But I'll check with him just to be sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, no problem. All right, so we will do financial and merchant accounts. Now, I don't have a lot that I can physically show you on this in terms of merchant accounts because, of course, I have a demo, but I will demonstrate to you everything that you would do. So your first tab is going to be General Settings. You would put your processor portal webpage for whatever processor you're using. Your connect timeout and your response timeout. So your connect timeout would be how long it waits for the restaurant to get in touch with the processor. And then the response timeout would be waiting for that response from the processor. We have ask for override due credit card when using the same card number on the same operation date. So if you have that checked on and say you had a customer come in earlier and then they try to use their card again, you can have it ask for an override because maybe you think it's suspicious, for example. We have enable offline storing of credit cards if the system cannot communicate with the processor. So maybe you were in the middle of processing someone's card and you lost internet connection. It can save the credit card information so you can finish the transaction once you have internet back on. And then we have disabled the amount confirmation prompt for EMV. So pretty straightforward. If you don't want an amount confirmation, you can just check this box and it won't ask for an amount confirmation. Right, so let's do the merchant accounts now. All right, so we have magnetic swipe merchant accounts, and then we have the EMV merchant accounts. So this is just where you would put all of that information in. If you are putting in a magnetic swipe merchant account, you will use the account tab, the credit card settings tab, and the AVS and CVV settings tab. If it is an EMV merchant account, you will only do the account and the credit card settings because, of course, you don't need to have that CVV. All right, so let's say you are putting a new account in. You would check active if it's active, if the merchant can be used currently. The unique ID would be the ID that prints on the customer's receipt. So if a refund needs to be made, for example, you would look at that unique ID for that merchant account. You have the interface type. So if it's credit card, gift card, or loyalty, you would choose the processor from here. So if it's Vantiv, Sterling, if you're processing through DataCab. The account type, so if it's magnetic swipe or EMV, you would put the merchant's ID here. So whatever the merchant gives you for that ID, that's where you would put it. And then you have the server IP and DNS addresses. So if you're using NetiPay, you would enter the IP address of the terminal where the merchant's credit card software interface is installed. If you're using Vantiv, you would enter in the IP address that Vantiv gave to you. You would put in your server port, so the credit card merchant number, server port number, the terminal ID, which you should only need for the Sterling interface, and they would give you that information. Don't worry about the sequence section or the clear sequence number. That would be for soft touch use only. So Taylor probably would be the only one that would deal with that button. All right, do you have any questions so far?
Not yet. Give me a week.
That's fine. And like I said, if you have any questions, just let me know. All right, so let's say, for example, we are adding a magnetic swipe account. So we've already done this account tab. Now let's do the, you would do your credit card settings. Minimum amount for signatures. So maybe if you have a check that's over $50, it requires a signature. For your ABS, which is for delivery and takeout only, for the address entry, you can do prompt but not required, required on the first entry, or do not prompt. Same thing with the zip code entry. And you can choose to void any transactions over a certain amount if the ABS doesn't match. If you wanted to put the transactions through even if it doesn't match, you can just put 0 to disable it. Same thing with the CVV. And you can choose prompt but not required, required on first, or do not prompt. And then you can void transactions that are over a certain amount if it doesn't match, or to disable that, you can just put 0. And then you can do the tip method, fail or adjust, or pre-auth or capture. And then you would do those ABS and CVV settings for the magnetic swipe account. Actually, let me get back to that in a second. Let's do the EMV as well. So for the EMV, of course, you would skip over the ABS and the CVV, and you would just do that minimum amount for signature and the tip method, and then you save. All right, so actually this ABS and CVV settings tab is for codes relating to the processor. So for example, you can list all of the different codes your providers return to you if maybe an address or zip code or CVV isn't correct. So we will have some default codes that are already listed here, but you will want to check that they're correct, maybe if they're older. You would just choose the code. So from the drop-down, for example, zip only, account name, and then put in the code here. So say if you have a zip code that doesn't match on the Visa, it would give you the code 1234. So you would know that's the issue that you've had with that card and that transaction. Any questions?
Nope, not yet.
All right. Now let's go to the credit card routes here. Let me just do that. Okay. So we'll go to the credit card routes. You would here choose, so you have your route list and your route configuration. From these drop downs, you would select the merchant account that will process each of these different types of accounts. I don't have anything in my drop downs, but it would list here your merchant accounts that you have. So dining account would be this one, delivery would be this one, and you would just choose from there the different merchant accounts that you want to be in charge of those ones. I think pretty clear on the merchant accounts then? So let's go
so far.
Let's go to the media and accounts then. So you have the merchant account set up, and now you want to set up the types of media that you accept at the restaurant. Let's go to media and accounts. All right, so you have your accounts group tab and you have your accounts list tab. So this is where you set up the media accounts, as I said, different credit cards, cash or checks, coupons, member accounts, gift cards. If a restaurant doesn't accept a certain payment account, so for example, the restaurant doesn't accept American Express, then you don't even have to add that account type in here. You can just leave it out. Let's pick on one of them. Let's pick on Visa since we're already there. So when you go to add a new account, you'll click add and start filling in this information. So under general settings, you have the number that's assigned to it. You have the media name, so probably the name of the card if it's a card, so Visa, for example. The account type, there's cash, credit card, and several more. That's a credit card in this case. And the sort order. So the sort order is going to determine the order the accounts show up in SoftTouch. So when you go to cash someone out in SoftTouch, you're first going to see cash because that's number one. But then the next option you'll see is going to be the Visa. And then next is MasterCard and so on. You would check that is active. You would check if you want to charge tax on this media type. If you don't want the drawer to open when this media type is used, you can just check this box if the media requires a tip. Some of these aren't relevant right now. Here, disable for online. So if a restaurant, for example, doesn't accept cash for online ordering, we would check this box for cash. And then we have disable for the kiosk. So if you don't want people to be able to use a certain media type with the kiosk, you can do that as well. Apply adjustment. This has been very popular. This was added a few releases ago. So you can say, for example, every time someone uses cash, you give them 10% off. And we'll go over how to create adjustments. If not today, no, not today. I think I want to say day 3 or 4, we go over adjustments. So the adjustments you created would appear here. So you could do, if someone pays with a Visa, maybe we give a 10% discount. You would just place that on there. So people like this, and they use it as a sort of cash discount most often. We have the secure checkbox here, which requires a manager perform the operation. So maybe every time you have someone pay with the Visa, it's going to tell you need a manager's override. So the manager has to come in and put in their code or do their swipe card or whatever they have for it to go through. You have the credit card settings. The transaction percent is the fee that the credit card company requires. And then the tip deduction percent is the amount that you can have a server pay to cover the credit card transaction percent. So if Visa charges you 3% and you want to charge 3% to the server, then you can. And then you would choose the interface name. Now, if it's a member or gift card account, let me see if I have something. Okay, so let's do gift card SoftTouch, for example. If it's a member and gift card account, you would fill out these settings. And we do support house and corporate accounts as well. So gift cards, if you want to have an account that you charge things on as well, you can do that. Let me see. Yes, this one's good. All right, so in this case, it would actually, this one would be a card account, but you could also have a house account. You would put expiration days if you want the card to automatically expire a certain amount of time after it's issued. So maybe you have a special promotion where you can get a $10 gift card, but it's only good for 30 days. So you could put this specific card expires 30 days. Check if it's a deposit account. In this case, the gift card would be because you would pay beforehand. You could check to have it prompt for account name. And then you have the card storage. So if it's single store or multi-store, you would choose the merchants if that's applicable. You could do the card number length. So you say it has to be at least, in my case, 4 characters. The card digits is really useful. So you would put in the starting characters for the account. So something we recommend so that SoftTouch will instantly recognize that something is a gift card is have your gift card start with maybe the first 2, 3, or 4 of the same numbers. So maybe all your gift cards start with 1, 2, 3, 4. So SoftTouch knows, oh, this is a gift card. And then you don't have to worry about the decode data or decode all to track to. That's just for us. Do you have any questions? Okay, so let's move on to the account list.
Let me ask you something real quick, Lindsay. Just because my brain's thinking 100 things. So is this a way to be able to put money on a gift card? Because like for Aldelo Pay, we have to order the gift cards coded with on track two with different information, da 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 da. Is this a way to do gift cards without having to order cards through a special place, all encoded?
You would still need to order the cards. We have I can send you the link on the Learning Center for the exact requirements for it.
Okay, please.
Right now. Yeah, so I'll send you the gift card article.
Thank you.
They definitely have to be tracked too for sure, but I'll
Right.
get that other information over to you.
Perfect.
And you can also have multiple types of gift cards. So like I said, you could have maybe one that's only good for 30 days. Or something that someone asked, they were interested in doing the beta testing for the multi-store gift cards, but they have several restaurants using Soft Touch in a food court. So they asked if they could have a gift card that's for the food court that's multi-store, but still have those individual gift cards for the restaurant, and they can. So that's something you could do as well. So maybe this is a gift card for this particular chain of the restaurant, but then you can have a gift card that's for all of the chains of the restaurant.
Okay, so that would be another question. So I have a customer, like I said, he's still on Aldelo. We're still struggling with him a little bit. I think he's coming over soon. But anyways, he has multiple locations. And so he'd gotten cards for one of them, liked it. So now he wanted the cards for the other one, but he wanted to use them both and both. So of course we had to call in and have things changed through Vantiv. Would that still be necessary under this?
Now you're saying, so he already has gift cards created for 2 restaurants, but they're multi-store gift cards that he can use the gift cards at each location?
Well, he only had the cards created for one of the stores. And then he decided that, because he was kind of trying it out, that he wanted to go ahead and have it for both of his locations, but he wanted to be able to use one, so they could buy it and then use it at either location.
Got it. Yes. Yeah, we don't have the beta testing going for the multi-store loyalty and gift cards, but that would definitely be something that would work once we have that up and running.
Okay.
We have a place with 4 restaurants that's about to start testing it, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's definitely something he'd be able to do, because I think last release or the release before that, we actually put in the option to import gift cards. So if he has gift cards that pre-exist, he could import them. I don't have it that I can show you on mine, because mine is, I think, 1 release behind that.
Okay.
But we have that we've added in where you can import gift cards.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah. So if you do, once you do get him switched over to Soft Touch, if you want to see if he's interested in the beta testing, then he could check that out too.
All right.
Let me actually get you the article for that one too, because I did add that one to the Learning Center as well for the importing gift cards.
Perfect.
Right. All right, so what's next? All right, so let's do our account list now. So I don't have anything on my account list, but this is where, for example, you could create a house account for maybe you have a big company that always comes in. So you would add them in by, of course, most things to add something, you would click the add button. So you would click add. The first tab you have here is the account tab. Same as everything, you check if it's active, put in the account name. So let's just call it Lindsay's Business. You would put the card number if you just have one card number that the house account is going to be using. If the house account expires, you would choose an expiration date. Otherwise, you can keep it blank. And then you can also check if it's tax exempt for some reason, and then put in that tax ID. It's going to put you the date. It's going to tell you the date it was issued, which is nice. You'll have the account history, which will show you every time someone used this house account. And it will actually show you the different customer too. So if Joe customer comes in, if John Smith comes in, it's going to show you they came in this date and time, they paid this amount, it was this check number, and this payment type. You have the member addresses, which would be the addresses that are for this house account. And then you would also have your account members, which you choose from pre-existing customers. So we can put me in there. and let's put Joe customer. So now we are part of that house account. Any notes that might be relevant, whatever you think might be important, you can put in there. And then invoicing, if they are overdue and you need to send them an invoice, you'd be able to print out an invoice for their account. Any questions?
Nope, not yet.
All right, so now that we have our account groups and our account list, let's go over to stations again and to credit cards. So this next thing is important. I do not have it checked because I can't have it checked for my demo, but for a restaurant, you need to make sure that you check this box to enable credit card processing through SoftTouch, unless they're cash only. But if they are using credit cards, you need to make sure that you check enable credit card processing through SoftTouch, because otherwise SoftTouch will think it's processing just fine, but the restaurant won't actually be making any money, and it will automatically cash out. So you will need to choose your credit card route, which again, I don't have, but you will have it. And then your lane ID, you can create it, or you can just click generate a lane ID. It'll just be something random and different for each station. Pretty clear?
Yes.
All right, so let's go to one of my favorite little things about SoftTouch, setting up our seatings and zones. So setting up different sections. So you remember that in the beginning, we went to financial and we set up this Tiki Bar Revenue Center. Now I want to make a section that is my Tiki Bar. So I will go to General and Seating and Zones. You can see here I have 3 sections already. I have my bar, my boat rental, and my dining. I will click Add. I want to do my Tiki Bar. My section name is Tiki Bar. Section type, dining or bar, it's bar. You can choose your section order, which is similar to the sort order that we had for the media and account types. If I put 1, it's going to go on top of everything else in SoftTouch. So it'll say Tiki Bar, bar, boat rental, and dining. You can choose the screen width if you need to. And then we have these different options here as well. That's up to you. If you're using Hostess, you can do that as well. So let's go ahead and save this because this is all I need right now. All right, so now my Tiki Bar has been added. Next thing you do is go to Designer and start designing. Now, this is blank because, of course, I just created it and it's new. So now I need to create a layout that looks like it does at my restaurant. All right, so it's going to be a Tiki Bar, but let's just do whatever we'd like just for demonstrative purposes. We need to have some tables. So we have regular table here. We also have lower res images. So I have simple table versus regular table. Just select the item that you want and click on the screen and it will put it there. If I click regular table again, it'll put another table. And you can see here that it automatically numbers these tables. Something else I can do to be a little faster is I can right click and copy and just start pasting new tables. I can move them around to match my layout at my restaurant. And there are other things that you can do as well. So let's say I want one of my tables to be a pool table. When you select that object, you have this sort of a menu over here to choose what you're doing. So right now, pool table is false. If I select true, this is now a pool table. Right now, the seat count for this table is 4, but if I want to change it to 6, you can see here it adds 2 more tables, 2 more chairs to the table for me. If you have another color option, for example, I can make a table dark. You can also rotate a table. So that's flipping the table. Let's rotate the table here. So if I want to rotate it to the left, now I've rotated this table. So you have a few different things just for aesthetic purposes. You can change the shape for the size. You have your different options there. I would recommend that you do the background last, because if you do the background first, you might accidentally end up dragging in the background as you're adding things. So what I like to do is add everything I need. I choose the background and just drag it on top of everything now. And then when I click design, I click go back, and now the background is behind everything else. Let's choose a nicer looking background. There we go. And then we do just have some different image sets of different things. We have a lot of plants. So maybe a piano. Right. So when I'm done, I click stop designing. Now it's telling me that I cannot have duplicate table numbers because remember I copied the one table, and when I pasted it, all of those table numbers were the same as the first one. So it has automatically renumbered the tables for me. But of course, you can go back and you can make the table numbers whatever numbers you want for the restaurant. Do you have any questions on the designer?
No.
Right, so we won't go over rentals and zones because those would be mainly used for the hostess package. But if you ever had any questions, Taylor would be great to help you with that. So next, let's go ahead and let's create some jobs, and then we will also assign security roles to those jobs. So we'll go under miscellaneous and go to jobs. All right, so to add a new job, you're going to press the plus sign to add it. Let's pick on cashier. So you have the job detail tab. For the job description, that would be the name. And then there is a drop down for the job type. So you have other, server, bartender, busboy, manager, food runner, and driver that are in there by default. You have different job options. So if you want cashier to show up on the all employee list, if you want to disable the job from appearing on your labor sales alert, you can select the job to automatically join the hostess zone. So the hostess does that, of course. You check whether you want them to collect tips daily. If you don't check this, then the tips will be totaled into the hours and wages report as earnings, and so they won't be paid out for the tips. And you can also check to enable tip deduction. Sorry. We have the closeout options here, which is similar to what I was showing you with the tills and pockets. We'll go over that on day 4. But again, just to choose pretty much how independent they are or how much involvement a manager needs to have with closing out. And then we have check transfers. This would be to set a particular type of check to automatically transfer to a particular employee. So an example of this would be maybe you're at a restaurant where you have someone that comes up and handles drinks and appetizers, and then after that, they hand the check off to someone else. So it's not something very common, but that's what you would use it for. Any questions on creating jobs?
No.
Okay, so let's do the security now. So that is actually right underneath jobs. We have our security setup and our security log. So your security setup is very important because this is where you define your different security groups and you specify what actions a particular employee can have access to. So as a dealer, you'll want to create yourself a security group called administrator or dealer. So for example, I have dealer and administrator. So the security items are over here on the right. So what you can just do is just do a shift and then click, and then just click copy records and paste records, and then just give yourself all of the security permissions so that you'll be able to perform them no matter what. Actually, something that dealers like to do is maybe they want to limit a restaurant owner from being able to do certain things. Maybe they're afraid a restaurant owner is going to accidentally delete their menu. You can have it so the restaurant owner isn't able to access the item builder, for example. So let's say, let's get rid of the administrator and go to server versus server and training. You can see server has several security items versus server and training who only has 3. So this is where you would make your security group, which is based off your different jobs that you created. So drivers, managers, and so on. And then you would put in the security items. So all the drivers have these security items, for example. Administrator. All right, so you have the keyword, which is the item name, and you have the log box and the perform override box. If you check log, then that means every time that action is performed, it's going to appear in the security log. There are some things that are automatically put into the security log, but other ones you have to manually check them on. Perform override will be whether or not you need a manager's permission to do something. So for the administrator, I have everything pretty much checked on as perform override so that I can do something without needing someone else's permission to do it. Now, the security log, it shows you everything that I've been doing today in here. It shows you the date and time, the security name, so that was that keyword, a description if there is one. It will tell you what station it occurred on, the employee, what job they have, if there was an override, and you can actually sort it. So for example, if I choose employee, I can choose, I want to look at manager and see what they've done. So I can see that I did a system reset this morning. I can see everything the dealer's been doing. Maybe I want to see every time someone has gone to activation. So you can see here at 3:02, my time, I went to activation. You can check the security log for certain dates. It automatically goes to today's date, but if I want to see the log for the past week, I can do that as well. And you can choose here to group it by certain things as well. So if I want to go by employee, I can go by employee. You can also save it. You can save it to HTML, to Excel, or to text. And besides the grid view, there also is the log detail view, which will be for a specific log that you've selected, and it will give you more details. Do you have any questions on the security log?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, let me know if you come up with anything. Let's go to the shift descriptions now, because the next thing after that will be adding new employees. So let's go to shift descriptions. I'll be under miscellaneous. It's under the section that is a few different things together. We have money paid, quick message, and shift. That's where it is. And shift descriptions is at the very end. Shift descriptions are useful if an employee works, for example, a morning and evening shift. So they could have an AM shift and a PM shift. So this is something you want to do. If this is something you want to do, you can do it. Otherwise, you don't need to do it. So let's go to employee. That will be under general, employees. You have two different ways that you can add new employees. You can either manually add them in, or you can use the new employee wizard. So if I look at my employee list, let's do Betty Bartender. So I have all of these different tabs here, which we can go over right now. So when I add a new employee, I'm first on the employee tab. If I want her to have a third-party ID, I can. I don't need to. I have her first name is Betty, last name is Bartender. I can choose the employee type, or just leave it blank. If I want to put in the social security number, I can. Same with birthday, employment date, group name. I can choose if she's left or right-handed. So by default, you have the check that appears on the left side, and the buttons are on the right side when you're putting an order in. But if she's left-handed, I can have her check go on the right side and have her menu on the left side. I can choose if I want her button size to be small or large, and her driver dispatch assignment mode if she's a driver. So I can also do transfer all sales and tips to the employee who closes these employees' checks. So if, for example, she's busy and someone else closes her check for her, everything would go to them. That could be something I could check on. We have security. This is where you would just check if the account is enabled or disabled. If you have someone that for some reason you want to disable their account, you just uncheck this box. You have the system user ID, which appears at the top left of soft touch, and it also appears on the receipts. A few other things that we can go over, and then you would also choose if they have access to back office. This is where you would reset their password. This person's password expires in 1900. Obviously, that's not realistic. Um, and then you would choose if they have a swipe ID or RFID, fingerprints if they're using biometrics. Here you would do job, so they could have more than one job. You can see here, on the right, she has her current employee job list, which would list all of the jobs that she has. So her job description is bartender. I have also assigned her the bartender security group. I have her set to automatically log into the bar. So by default, you're automatically logged into the info screen. But I said, she's a bartender. I want her to go into the bar every time. So for her auto login, she's set for the bar. You have her wage. So, and these are what we're getting into. Some of these things you don't need to have. So for wage, I put hourly, but I haven't put in her wage amount. Address if you need it, good for maybe emergencies. Same thing with phone number. Tills and pockets, we have if she has any permanently assigned tills or assignable tills. Sorry. All right. So you can have a permanently assigned till or assignable till. My manager that I have has a permanently assigned till, which is actually till number 1, the same one that Betty has. So every time my manager clocks in, she's automatically on till number 1. Versus assignable, maybe you could have till number 1 and till number 2 that are assignable. So if you clock in and till number 1 is already assigned to someone else, you can choose to assign till number 2 to yourself. So that would be the difference versus till number 1, the assignable tills and permanently assigned tills. Now you can have a till and a pocket because maybe Betty is a bartender, but sometimes she's also a server. So we could add a permanently assigned pocket to her. So we could do add, and she doesn't have a pocket, but let's just say for demonstrative purposes, this is her pocket. So when she's a server, she'll use that pocket, and when she's a bartender, she'll use the till. We have the scheduling. You would check if you want scheduling to be enabled because you can do scheduling for employees in SoftTouch, which is actually what we're going to do next after the employee section. You also have scheduled grace periods. So, for example, you could set it so that employees can clock in no sooner than 10 minutes before their scheduled shift begins. Sorry, I just need some water, 1 second. Or you can set it so that you can also set it so that employees cannot clock in a certain time after their shift was supposed to begin. So maybe you've had people coming in late and you enact a new policy and you say, all right, you will not be able to clock in if you are 5 minutes late or more. So you would just put here, you can clock in 10 minutes early, but if you're 5 minutes late, then you won't be able to clock in. And then they would just need a manager to do an override for them. You have tracking, which can be fun. You can do it by super department, family, or item number. So let's say it's Thanksgiving time, and you have a contest for which server can sell the most pumpkin pies. So you would just put in the item number that you have for the pumpkin pie, and SoftTouch will now start keeping track of how many of those pumpkin pies they've sold. You have the alerts. If you're going to be using the pager system, you would check alerts on. If you're doing alerts through the phone for the employees, I believe you would have to be doing the SMS texting subscription, and you would put in the customer's phone number. And the last thing is notes. Anything you need to note for the employee. It could be useful if you have maybe some high school students and you need to know their schedule, so you know when you should or shouldn't schedule them for work. Any questions?
No, that's pretty straightforward.
All right. Now, what you can quickly do is the new employee wizard. You select the tab, click here to start adding a new employee, and only a few things are required here. So we have a new server named Sarah Server. I only have to put in first and last name if I want to. Don't have to put in her address or phone number. Now I can choose an employee whose security settings I want her to match. So I should have Susie Server. I would choose her user ID. If I don't want it to be Sarah34, I can change it to something else, but Sarah34 is fine. I can check it so that her swipe ID never expires, so she never has to change her swipe ID. Let's go next. All right, so if you want her to have access to back office, you can give her a back office password, otherwise she won't have access to back office. Because you'll probably only want the owner and maybe a manager to have access. And then you either need to set a swipe ID or register a fingerprint if you're doing the biometrics. The swipe ID doesn't need to be a card. It can also just be numbers that you put in. So let's do swipe ID. Her swipe ID has been set. Now I can go next. I choose her job description. I'm going to make her a server. And then choose from the security group. She's a new server, so I want to give her the server in training. Security group. All right, so since I selected her as a server, the new employee wizard is now asking me if I want the server to be self-banking. So it's asking me if I want to create a pocket for her. And I say, yes, I do want her to be self-banking. All right, so now I'm finished. Let's go to Sarah Server. Now you can see here under Tills and Pockets, it has created her a permanently assigned pocket called Sarah Server Pocket. Any questions?
No.
All right, sounds good. All right, so now let's go on over the scheduling. So first, we can go, like I said, you would check scheduling enabled if you want to do scheduling for this employee. So maybe you only want to do system scheduling for your servers, but everyone else, maybe you use an Excel document to do their schedules. So you would go under general and then scheduling. The first tab we have here, we will skip over. First, we'll do the employee schedule setup. You first choose what day of the week your schedule starts on. So mine starts on Monday. The maximum number of hours before an employee starts counting as overtime is 40. And then your schedule intervals. Are they 30 minutes or 60 minutes? But you need to be careful if you are changing the interval from 30 to 60 or 60 to 30, because it will affect how everything is rounded. Right, so if we go to employee scheduling, you can select the employee here. My demonstrative one doesn't work for me, but it would work for you guys. So let's say I want my server to be working these hours. It doesn't work for me. But here I have 9 to 7. I have, for some reason, it puts me in the year 2123, but it would do whatever date it actually is on there. You would choose what job they're working. So in the case where I had the example where Betty bartender is sometimes a bartender, sometimes a server, it would give her two different options. So today Betty is working as a server. Wednesday she's working as a bartender. You can put whether this time that you have selected is time that they're working or time that they're off. And you can also choose if it's going to be weekly. So if my server is going to be working 9 to 7 on Monday every week. And then you would hit OK, and then it would show the employee for this block of time. So you just click and drag. You can right click. Very easy to change everything on there. And then it actually shows you how many hours you've scheduled employees for and how much money it's going to cost you as a restaurant owner. If you go to job scheduling, this shows you exactly how much money you're spending on the schedule on the bottom. And you can filter it by different jobs. So right now it just has this employee on here, but it would show you all the employees, the charts, and all the details. And then you can say, you know what, my server hasn't been very busy recently, but I'm paying her so much money, I think I'm going to cut her hours. It's very good for figuring out how much how much time you should be scheduling employees for, and how many employees you need. And to filter by jobs, you would just select here. And it would show you everyone that's been scheduled for those different jobs. Do you have any questions?
No.
All right, so that was actually pretty quick, finishing up day 1. I don't know if I want to get started on day 2, just because that all has to do with the item builder. And we might want to go over the item builder all at once, but it's up to you if you want to start doing some day 2 early.
No, we still have 50 minutes.
Because we did start a little early, but then you're also quite familiar with things, so you didn't have a lot of questions.
Right. If we could go ahead and start, then
Sure. Yeah.
if you feel comfortable.
Yes. Yeah. Let's get going on it, and then I'll find a point that would be a good cutoff point, so it would be easy to jump back into it on Thursday.
Okay.
Oh, now, do you have any other questions on anything with the day 1 material?
No.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So let me just switch you over. You know what? Let's just begin. All right, so we are going to go first to the item builder, because day 2 is mainly the item builder. So welcome to day 2. All right, so this is going to be mostly on how you would build a menu. And then what we'll get over probably on the actual day 2 would be system scheduling, stock and inventory, setting up different stations, and then some other things. So the first thing we'll go over is departments. So when you go under General and Item Builder, you first have the Departments tab. And this is where you set up your super departments, and your families, which are very important. So you as the dealer will be doing the initial menu setup for the restaurant. So I always think of a sort of a tree, like a family tree or a hierarchy in terms of the different types of departments. So your super department would be your more general category. Department is more detailed, and then family is very detailed. So for example, your super department, alcohol, very general. Departments, more specific, wine. And then your family, you have red wine and white wine. And you would just organize them in that way. Same thing, we have food, which you can't really get more specific with the food department, so it's also food. But then you have your families, you have appetizers, you have salads, you have soup. All right. And the families are important when it comes to identifying the food items. And then also for, oh goodness, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So the families are good for the food items and also for coursing, important for the coursing as well. Do you have any questions on departments?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's go now. Let me skip over the menu and rule builder for now. We'll go over the smart rules later. So for now, let's go to the menu categories. This is actually something that we use for our online ordering, so you just don't need to worry about the menu category section. And we do, since Dine Blast is us for the online ordering, if you ever have a customer with online ordering and they have something that you can't help them out with, we actually provide the technical support for the online ordering. We will go to the item maintenance, which could be something that you or the restaurant can take care of. This can list all of the created items in the database, whether they're active or not. And you would choose what items you're seeing. So for example, if you want to see all the items, if you want to see all the modifiers, you can search for particular items. So this is neat because it doesn't just show you what's active now, it shows you other things that you've added in there.
Lindsay, is there a item max on this list?
I have not heard of one. So I think you could have a lot of items, especially
because I've noticed well, and sometimes they, you know, they you'll have the same thing over and over again in different places with different numbers though.
So you're saying, for example, you might have cheese in multiple places with different item numbers?
Right, or it may be 10 or not buffalo wings, let's say 28 first ham. Then you might go down further and you'll see a 77 first ham. You know.
Sometimes that happens if you so for example, maybe you have a topping called ham for pizza, and you have a topping called, well, you have an item called ham for a sandwich. So they would have the same name, but different numbers because they're different. Or sometimes you copy a modifier from
Okay.
one modifier group and then put it in another. But you can make changes to it. So you can copy it, it'll be
Okay.
exactly the same, but then you can make changes to it afterwards. So that might be why.
So on the screen we're looking at right now,
For example, I have two
explain.
Let me find an example of So for example, I have pepperoni.
Yeah, pepperoni.
Because I use pepperoni as an example a lot for this day for the modifiers. So every time I add a new pepperoni modifier, it adds it to this list.
So why do some of them list it under the PLU and others don't? The PLU column?
Yeah, the PLU would be the barcode, and you can choose to have that or not. So let's say, let me find something. So for my fountain soda, I have my PLU as fountain soda, but then I could have something where I don't have a PLU. So that's also where you would have your barcode if you had a barcode. So for example, for my half cheese ravioli, I don't have one. So it's really just up to you if you want to have one.
Okay.
Now the item number is a randomly assigned item number. So you can tell I've had a lot. A restaurant would not have this many item numbers, but just because I'm always doing different things on this.
Right.
Do you have any more questions on the item maintenance?
So here's the, yeah, so you see the clicks on all the actives. Does it really matter if you go and deactivate something? Say like, see, I see the Pellegrino is small, is not active, and everything else is. Would it matter if you just left them all active?
Well, let's say, well, let's see, what am I trying to think of? Let me show you an example. Let's say I usually have a fountain soda, but we are not going to have fountain soda anymore for the time being, but I think we'll have it in the future. I would check it as not being active. So no one will be able to use it on Soft Touch. So now if I look up fountain soda, hopefully I do not have multiple fountain sodas. If I look up fountain soda, you can see now it is checked as inactive.
Okay.
It's active.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's why. So it would tell you this is currently active in your system.
It's active on the other one also. Yeah, it's just two places. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this would just be the listing of every single item you've created ever.
Okay.
So let's see what next. Oh, let me take you back to the PowerPoint. Oh, goodness. This PowerPoint is funny because sometimes it likes to open up on one screen and other times it likes to open on the other one. So let me move you over. All right, stay tuned. All right, so the next thing is going to be the real-time pricing. So Soft Touch will override the price according to the schedule and the system's current time.
Yes.
So for example, I have 4 to 7, Budweiser is $1.50. 7 to 12, Budweiser is $3. So Sam orders a Budweiser at 5, it's $1.50. If he orders another one at 6, it's still $150. But if he orders another one at 8, he has to pay $3 because SoftTouch is keeping track of that real-time pricing.
Right.
Very useful for reordering when you have schedule set up, which we'll go over later.
Right. That's like happy hour.
Yeah. So you can still do that. You can do no real-time pricing if you'd like, though. So if you have,
You're playing the banjo again.
Oh no. Okay. Is it better? Maybe I should take up the banjo. Maybe this is a
Here we go.
My New Year's resolution: learn to play the banjo. All right. So yes, exactly. So the real-time pricing would be really good for the happy hour. Now you can also do the no real-time pricing. So if you set a family, again, this is where families can be useful. If you set a family to have
You're totally gone now. I can't hear anything.
Okay, let me know. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. And the last thing I heard was the real-time pricing.
Yes. Okay. So yes, so you were right with the real-time pricing being like a happy hour sort of thing.
Right.
But you can also do the no real-time pricing. So this is where the family comes in again. So if a family is set to have no real-time pricing, then SoftTouch is not going to override the price. So it will use whatever price it was when that check was open. So for example, you can have the early bird price. So, you know, like a happy hour sort of thing. So if it's from, I don't know, like 5 to 7, then they'll have the early bird price. But even if it's 7 to 8 and it's supposed to have new pricing, the check still has that early bird pricing. So they'll continue to have that the entire time until the check is cashed out.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's
one it's adjusting as the time changes, the other it's sticking with the original, the beginning.
Yes. So if I go to the departments one more time, and we go to, for example, red wine, you can see red wine has real-time pricing, or you can choose no real-time pricing. So just everything in the red wine family will or will not have the real-time pricing. So it's up to you for the different families if you want to have the real-time pricing or not.
Okay.
And then just make sure the type for the drinks need to have the type from the drop-down set to beverage in their super department and their family in order for the reorder first order button and the beverage counts feature to function correctly together. So when you do reorder beverage, it will say, okay, they've reordered another beverage.
Oh, so it's not being charged for, is that so they're not being charged like for a refill on soda?
It would be, so it can count properly with the beverage count to seat count.
Okay.
So because you can set it to, for example, require a beverage with every person that's sitting. So you have 4 people, it requires you to put in 4 beverages. Right, so now let me move you back because that's all we have there for now.
Okay.
Back to the back office. All right, there you go. All right, so now let's go over the menu and rule builder. This is your best friend when setting up a menu for a restaurant, which is, of course, very important. All right, so we have the modifier section, so such as salad dressing. We have the items, such as salads. We have the link groups. So for example, I have my main menu link group with all of the items that are on my main menu. And then the main menu tab. The links section is where you choose what you're going to be showing on SoftTouch. And so for example, I have my main menu link group. And then when I click the main menus tab, you can see here, for example, my counter menu is my main menu link group. And this will make more sense once we get into it.
Okay.
So the link group is pretty much where you say, this is what's going to appear in SoftTouch. And main menu is where you save it as a menu. All right, so let me show you an example. Let me open up my SoftTouch. And I'll show you my main menu versus what appears in SoftTouch. As you can see in my main menu, it has burritos, then slices, then pizza pies. And if I go into SoftTouch, I have burritos, slices, and pizza pies. So whatever order you have it in for the link group, that's going to be the order that it appears in on SoftTouch.
Okay.
Right, so we have the command bar up here So all these little icons that are useful for everything you have to do. I'll just go over what each of them are. Let me know if you have any questions on any of them.
Okay.
All right, so you have expand nodes, which expands all the nodes. Collapse nodes, which you guessed it, collapses all of the nodes. We have, when you're in the modifier section, you have the add a modifier group button, which has the yellow building blocks. With the items, same thing, but it's items, adding an item group with the red building blocks. And for the link group, you have the add a link group button with the blue building blocks. And then we have the red add an item button and the yellow add a modifier button. We have open node from disk, which will allow you to, you open this up and you can actually open a menu that already exists, which could be useful if you have created their menu in your office and now you want to set it up at their restaurant. Or maybe you have a chain of restaurants and the new one is using the exact same menu as the old one. You can save that menu and open it up in the new back office and you're done. And we have save node to disk, which allows you to save the menu. We have cut node, copy node, and paste node. And the nodes in this case would be, so if it's an item group, it would be the items. So the items are nodes. So you can cut the fountain, you can copy the fountain soda and paste it into another item group, for example. We have the duplicate selected items, which we will go over. We have the node updater, which is very handy, which we'll also go over. We have rename node, a sort node, so you can actually sort them alphabetically, for example. We have the binoculars to find, which is essentially a control F, and then find next, which would be looking for the next occurrence. So for example, you're looking for a certain cheese. You don't know what it's called, but you know it has the word cheese in there. You need to find it. So you would click find, do cheese, and then click find next to keep going to those different cheeses until you find the one you're looking for. Oh, goodness. You have the delete node button, which I accidentally pressed, which is not good. You have clear all menus, which you need to be careful with because if you press this, it is going to clear the entire menu and everything associated with the menu will be gone.
Does it ask for a verification?
I'm afraid to click it, but I think it probably confirms with you that you want to clear it.
I hope so.
Yes, well, because for example, when you actually so say I'm in here and I go to open a new menu and I select a new menu to open. Before it opens the new menu, it confirms with me that I want to delete the menu that I have opened right now. Now, if I've already saved the menu, it's fine, but it's saying once you open this new menu, what you're using right now is going to be gone. And it has me type in delete and hit OK before it opens that new menu. So clear menus, clear all menus should do the same thing. I've just never clicked it because I don't want to.
We don't want to find out. Okay.
You have copy all items into this link node, which is kind of a silly one. It literally copies every single thing that you have and puts it into the whatever link group you have selected. We have these handy ones, move node up, which would just move, for example, if we do bottled water, move node up, it moves it on top of the fountain soda. We move it back down, it moves it back down. We also have top of node, which sends something to the top of a group, and bottom of node, which sends it to the bottom of a group. You have spell check, which you can only do if you have Microsoft Word, so it could be handy. We have set the default button color scheme. So you can choose what you want your buttons to automatically look like when you create a new item or modifier. If you have a button scheme, for example, I have this bottled water, I like the blue button, I like everything going on there. I can click copy button color scheme, select another item, and then paste the color scheme. We have 1024, which is really nice. You will select a group. So for example, I have my item group beverages. And when you click 1024, it confirms what screen resolution you want to see it in. I'm just going to keep it to the default. You click OK. And then that shows you what that group is going to look like on Soft Touch. So it's really good when you're trying to decide how many rows or columns you should have, what color, font, and so on you should have. Now, it's not functional because it's just for you to look at. So very useful. And then we have what I call the push pin. and it is to update stations. This is very, very handy because when you make changes to your menu, you click this, and I'll just click it right now. It tells you a reload menu message was sent to all terminals. The station menu will be reloaded once the current station activity has been completed, which means that as soon as I navigate away from this menu, so maybe I cancel order, it refreshes the menu and it will show whatever changes I just made to my menu. So you don't need to restart SoftTouch for those changes to appear. You just have to get out of an order if you were already in that order. So very handy when you're making changes. Do you have any questions?
Nope.
All right.
So far, it's good.
All right, now let's go over modifiers. I think I'll just go over modifiers and items right now, but then we'll actually get into building a sample menu next time. So starting on Thursday, we'll do some modifiers and items and make a menu.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
let's go to the modifier section. So the modifiers are going to be everything that you can customize your items with. So salad dressing, pizza toppings, you name it. So
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I never realized how ordering a simple cup of coffee at Starbucks can have a million modifiers.
Oh yes. Yes. All right. Yeah. Let me actually let me open one. So there are two different types of modifiers. Let me navigate here so I can show you where you would show something with no modifiers. All right, here we go. So for example, there are two different types of modifiers. There is automatic and manual. And you will just check if it's manual. If you don't check manual, then it knows it's automatic. So automatic are options that are automatically going to pop up when a particular item is chosen in SoftTouch. So for example, you choose a salad, it immediately pops up with a dressing choice. Manual would be when a server needs to highlight the item and press the modify button for the modifiers to show up. So for example, no pickles on a burger. So let me actually show you. So here's an automatic modifier. I go to pizza pies, medium pizza, and then it shows me all my modifiers. I have different pages. I have my whole toppings, first, second, special instructions. So let's choose some modifiers here. Now let's do a manual modifier. If I go to slices and I do a slice of cheese, it doesn't have modifiers that automatically come up because if you're getting a slice of cheese, you're probably just getting a slice of cheese. But maybe I do have someone who wants modifiers. So I would select the cheese and I click modify, and now it takes me to the slice of cheese modifiers. So maybe they want some extra cheese. So those are the examples of automatic versus manual. These are cases where I have just one modifier group attached to an item, but you can have more than one. So I actually made my burritos. So the items are ground beef, ground chicken, or ground pork. I choose ground beef. It asks me tortilla type. Ignore the toppings. So let's do wheat. I have another one, rice. I have black beans. I have queso on the burrito. So those are also examples of automatic modifiers that appear. You can also have what you call no modifiers, add modifiers, extra modifiers, substitute modifiers, or instruction modifiers, so for special requests. So as you saw on my pizza, I had on my pizza, I just put my instructions in with my other modifiers. So this is actually one modifier group that's split into 4 pages. So modifiers are very fun.
Where can you show me on the screen where your arrow is right now where those modifiers were listed?
Yes. So in the case of the pizzas, I have a modifier group called medium pizza, Mead pizza modifiers.
Okay.
My modifier group, and all of my modifiers are down here.
Okay.
Now, in the case of doing half toppings, so first half toppings or second half toppings, that's where the node duplicator would be very useful and come into play.
I see now. That's where the first and the second and the extra and stuff comes in. Okay.
This is my modifier group, and right now, this is sort of its home. This is where all of my modifier groups exist. If I want to assign them to an item, I would go over to the item. I have my pizza pies, so this is my item group. This is where all my item groups live, and all of the items live within their item group. This is my medium cheese pizza, which is the item you saw. And I have my medium pizza modifier that's attached to it right here.
Okay.
And then there are some changes you can make to the modifier that's attached to the item. So for example, the medium pizza modifier is attached to this one and the margarita pizza. But you can see here, my medium pizza can have up to 3 toppings and must have 1. But for the margarita, there are no rules. But for the margarita, it's also a manual modifier. So even though it's the same modifier group, once they're applied to the items, you have a few changes you can make in how they work.
Okay.
Now, I think since the rest of what we're going to do is going to all be related and be sort of building a pizza with modifiers, I think we should wait until Thursday to go over that, if that's fine with you.
Okay.
Okay. And then we can do sort of a brief rundown
Okay.
of Rule Card again on Thursday, so you can have a refresher on the menu and rule builder.
Sounds good.
All right, awesome. Do you have any other questions or any questions about what's going to be coming up?
Well, actually, not at the moment. As far as what we're doing right now, I have a couple of questions that Anthony gave me to ask.
All right, sure.
But they don't have to do with what we're doing right this minute.
Yeah, let me see if I have the answers, and if not, I can get back to you.
Okay. Well, actually, so we're looking at the Dine Blast for a client, and he had asked me to find out the cost for the different modules, I guess, or lack of a better word, for the not the beta, but once, we get past the beta stage.
Got it. So the Dine Blast Mobile is $99. I think the Quick Pay is also $99, but I can double check on that. Dine Blast Online has different payment structures. So $99 a month is the monthly that you could do. And if you're doing any of those two together, it will be $150. So if you're doing Dine Blast Mobile, which is usually $99 a month, and Dine Blast Online Ordering, which is usually $99 a month, you could do them both together for $150.
Okay. That's what he wanted to know.
Yeah, so sort of a perk to do both of them.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let me think about some of what we went over today. I had to ask that so I didn't forget. Or, he'd be right on me the minute we hang up. So real quick, because this came up and it was very frustrating to me the other day.
Okay.
As I'm going through this menu I've programmed, okay, and I'm looking at the soft touch, the counter screen. Over here on, you have under your links, under your links tab over here.
Okay, so on
Office.
side. Okay.
You see how you have your main menu? Okay. Right. Now go back to the soft touch if you can. Flip back to it, to the counter menu. Okay, these buttons on the side where you have burrito, pasta, slices, dinners, okay? So your main menu are the buttons in the center. The buttons on the side we call home. Over in our link builders, we call it home. I had a button there that was a modifier for coffee, actually, that said meat mods. So I go back to my modifier group. I go into it. Everything was perfect. Coffee mods. Everything. I even erased what the button was called and retyped coffee mods and saved and reopen my soft touch because I did not know about the 1024 or the push pin. I mean, the push pin, and it still said meat mods.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so you're saying you have a link group, like your main menu group, and it has a modifier group that's in the link group?
Okay, so so you have your main menu group, okay, and then we have the way I've been doing the buttons on the side is I've made another, instead of main menu, it was home menu, and it had the list of what those buttons were, like where you had the pasta, the slices, the dinner, those little white buttons on the side of your counter screen. It would be the right side here. Okay. Where are these listed under your link?
Those buttons on the right are the buttons that you have on your link group. I like to call them like quick access buttons. So maybe if you're in the slices and you don't want to click go on, you can just click here to get to burritos, stromboli.
Okay.
So these are just, what these are how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these 16 buttons are those first 16 item groups that you have in your link group.
Okay. Oh, okay. So, however, though, like I said, say one of these says the stromboli, right? And then, but it finally corrected itself 3 days later.
Oh.
Out of the blue, I went to show it to Anthony because he was gone to the Bay Area for 3 days. And when he came back, I go, I can't figure out why this button says meat mods. And he goes, what button says meat mods? And I'll be damned if it didn't say coffee mods now. Oh my God. I don't know what I did, but I finally left it alone because I was just frustrated.
So when you selected the group under link group and the button text said coffee,
I erased it. It said coffee mods, which is what I wanted. I even went through, backspaced it and retyped it because I thought, well, maybe the meat mods was in front of where it said coffee mods, and so it only had so much space to make sure that that wasn't what happened.
Oh, wow.
And
I'll
it
check
still said,
oh no, yeah, meat mods. Well, that's an interesting modifier for meat.
It was just the weirdest thing, and like I said, I probably a day and a half, going through checking things, making sure everything worked. And that was the other thing that happened. So we had bento boxes, the sushi boxes, and you had a bento box 2 item and a bento box 3 item. Everything's working great. You go in, it click, it tells you choose your items, all that. But it still said meat mods instead of coffee mods on that other button, right? Well, then when Anthony came in and he goes into the thing to look at what I was trying to explain to him, the button now said coffee mods, but my bento boxes did not work.
Oh,
interesting. All my selections, because there were 18, you had a choice of 18 items for, you could choose 2 or choose 3, depending which box you were getting. None of the items but 1 would work.
Now, when you selected them, did it give you a message or did it just not work?
Yeah, it popped up the message saying that it wasn't assigned, but it had been. It was the weirdest thing because I had gone through and made sure everything clicked. Anthony's very particular about how long the reaction time is, things like that. We've been playing around with putting pictures on some of the buttons, and seeing what the DPIs do and how it slows it down and whatnot.
Did it tell you that it was a tax table that wasn't assigned or a family that wasn't assigned?
It was family, but yet the families had all been assigned. It had all been working perfectly.
Got it.
And then all of a sudden it was unassigned.
Oh goodness.
Yeah,
I'll check with Taylor. Was it Soft Touch Classic or Soft Touch Element?
Classic.
Classic. All right. Yeah, let me check with Taylor and see if he knows anything about that.
It was the latest version. We had just, brought in updated to the latest version. And it, like I said, it was the weirdest thing. I couldn't change the 1, and everything else was working smooth and pretty, and I was testing, everything looked good. I would change, I'd order all kinds of different stuff, and then all of a sudden when he went on a couple days later, because I didn't get on it for a couple days till he got home, that button was fixed, but then all of a sudden my other things were unassigned out of the blue.
Yeah, let me check with Taylor and see if he knows anything about that. I'll see if I can find out.
All right. Other than that, I think that's it for today. I'm really enjoying working with the program.
Oh, good. Yes, I enjoy it as well.
I want my restaurant though to be fancier. I'm sorry. I want it to look like the restaurant, the tables and stuff.
Yeah, like I said, the seating in zones is fun. Setting
Yeah.
everything up with the designer. We seriously have like 10 different types of plans that you can add. It's funny.
Yeah, it's like, let someone go take a picture for me. I want it to have the same wallpaper.
Well, maybe you'll appreciate this then. I recently ate at a restaurant that uses Soft Touch, and I was seated near the bar, and I sort of peeked over to see what their layout looked like, and I felt a little odd about it, but I wasn't being weird about it, but I was just so curious. I was so excited.
It's funny because I do it everywhere. In fact, we try to find excuses to be able to look at the equipment.
See, so you don't think it's odd, so that's good, because I was just so excited. And when the server came up and asked if we wanted to join the rewards program, I almost lost it.
Oh my. Okay, so Thursday, same time?
Yes, yeah, I'll go ahead and create the GoToMeeting link, and I'll end the one for Friday as well, and I'll send them over to you.
Okay, I was going to ask you if we'd need a new link or if it would be the same.
I'll see. I might be able to just make it recurring, but if not, I'll send over some new links to you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, sounds great. Well, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, you take care. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.